This is the top 5 reasons why the Fujifilm X-T4 is still worth it in 2020. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Pierre and I'm the founder of Square Melon Media, a video production house in Sydney. I created this channel to share my tips and tricks with you guys and help any aspiring videographer reach their goals. So, I'm going to talk today about Fujifilm. I shoot on a Fujifilm X-T4. It's the camera I've been using for about a year now. I switched out from a Canon and I'm going to talk about why the Canon X-T4 is still worth it in 2020. Reason number 1 is the video specs. The Fujifilm X-T4 can shoot 4K 60p, 420 10-bit internal, and 422 10-bit external. There is no other APS-C camera on the market that can touch this in terms of specs and price. To give you an idea what 10-bit means, 10-bit refers to the color depth of the file. So basically, the higher the bits, the more data, the more you can push the colors in the grading process. So going from 8-bit on my Canon to a 10-bit camera now was like making the jump back in the day from Nintendo to Super Nintendo. It's a big deal. And the added advantage of 422 external with a recorder means that the Fujifilm can be upgraded in the future and stay relevant for many years to come, even with new cameras like the R5 and the Sony a7S4 coming out. Still waiting for the a7S3. Who knows when that's coming? Or the a7S4. Who knows when that's coming? Sony, what's going on? Number 2 on the list is the film simulations that are built in with the X-T4. The film simulations are a digital representation of the original film stocks that were used back in Hollywood back in the day. A Turner is one of the most renowned film stocks and is being used in a ton of movies, and I'm sure just a quick Google search will show many movies you have seen in the past have used a Turner. The advantage of using a Turner and some of the other film simulations that are built into the X-T4 means that you don't have to worry as much in color grading. The image looks great straight at a camera and very cinematic, especially with a Turner. Very little color grading is required for a Turner to get that perfect look. The colors and the dynamic range in a Turner are outstanding in my opinion and is comparable to log footage. So if you don't want to use log footage and get into the complexities of color grading, I really recommend a Turner as a great starting point for any videographer and also for any advanced videographer because it means that you save time and there's less stuffing about. The third reason why I think the X-T4 is still relevant and still one of the best cameras you can buy in 2020 are the excellent audio preamps that are included in this camera. The advantage of great preamps inside the camera means you don't need to use an external recorder like this one. I hope that hasn't stopped the recording. Oh no. It means that you can trust the audio quality that is inside the camera and know that Fujifilm knows what they're doing when it comes to capturing the best quality audio. Audio recordings are crisp with low noise and low hiss, and definitely something that you need to think about if you're starting video in the future. Number 4 on the list is the high bit rate on the Fujifilm X-T4. Now this is something that gets overlooked all the time. Everyone looks at the specs. The Sony a7 III was regarded as one of the best video cameras in its day. The a7 III set standards because it was one of the first cameras to shoot 4K at 30 frames per second. However, the bit rate that it was maxing out was 100 megabits per second. So to give you an idea what bitrate means and how it's relevant to what we're doing with video, the higher the bitrate, more data gets captured. More data means higher quality video, and I'm a big advocate for image quality. X-T4 does offer up to 400 megabits per second, which is 4 times the amount on the Sony. Number 5 on the list of why I think that the Fuji is the best camera you can buy today is the customer support. Guys, this is so important when you buy a camera. You do not want to buy a camera and then 3 months, 6 months down the line, run into errors, run into bugs, run into issues that aren't resolved by the manufacturer. Fujifilm has a philosophy of consistently upgrading and improving their cameras. In the time that I've owned my X-T3, I've received 4 firmware updates, which have increased the autofocus performance, reduced overheating, and even added features like eye detect and face detect. Having this support from Fujifilm means that the camera you buy today could be even better in 1 or 2 years and perform better than the camera you bought 2 years ago. And that is great for anyone who's on a low budget or who can't afford to upgrade every 2 years. Okay, here's some bonus points that I came up with, which are more subjective of my experience with the X-T3, but I thought I would also share with you guys. I love the size of this system. Being a crop sensor camera means that this camera sits in between a micro four thirds and a full frame camera. That perfect balance between size and stability. You don't want something that's too light, but you also don't want it to feel like a chore every time you take it out and feel fatigued every time using the camera. The camera feels heavy and solid in the hand, just enough weight so that you can create stable footage. However, it's small enough to chuck in a bag and ensure that you always bring it along. Lighter and smaller gear means you're more likely to take it out when you shoot, which means you shoot more. So straight away, that's my number 1. Number 2 is the design. I love the retro design that Fujifilm continues to innovate with the X-T line. The X-T3 looks like a retro photography camera, which I love because it stays incognito when you're out in public. It looks like you are just shooting a photograph, when really under the hood, you know you're holding killer video specs. Number 3, the autofocus is surprisingly good. And I know people who are Canon or Sony users will say that it cannot compete with the Sony eye detect or the Canon dual pixel autofocus. Yes, I agree with that. I've owned a Canon, I've used Sony cameras in the past, and I can tell you from experience, Canon dual pixel still is the king of autofocus. Sony is not far behind with their autofocus, and it is quite good, though I feel it is more tailored towards photography. But the Fujifilm does hold its own. I'm really happy with the way that the autofocus works on this camera. It was one of the biggest hesitations I had moving from Canon to Fujifilm. However, I was pleasantly surprised how smart the AI was when locking onto an eye or a face or a person and just sticking. So most of the time, I just let the camera do what it does, and it does a great job. As I mentioned, with the updates that come out for the camera, the autofocus continues to get better and better with each update. So rest assured, you know that you have a camera that you can rely on the autofocus with the Fuji X-T3. The one thing I will say that the Fuji lacks is object tracking, which is a little bit disappointing. However, I'm confident that Fujifilm will eventually address this in a future update. Next up is the price, and is one of the biggest advantages the Fuji has over its competitors. The camera is retailing for 2,000 Australian dollars or roughly 1,300 US dollars with the kit lens. Now, let me repeat that. $1,300 with the kit lens. That is outstanding, and there is nothing else in the market that you can buy for that amount of money and have the same specs. So let's compare it to the A7 III. It seems to be the one camera that every person thinks is God, which is looking at $2,500 as a minimum body only. So once you chuck a lens on that, you're looking at three and a half, potentially $4,000, depending on what lens you buy. With the Fujifilm X-T4 being released, it means that X-T3 will be easier to find at lower cost points, and you're bound to find yourself a deal. So snap it up. If you see anything less than that amount that I've quoted, buy the camera. I'm telling you, you will not regret it. Last thing I want to rave about is the kit lens. And I know what you're saying, it's a kit lens. How can it be good? But trust me, I've used a bunch of professional grade lenses, and this kit lens that's included with the package with the X-T3 is phenomenal. It's very sharp, there's no distortion or color aberration at the corners, it's lightweight, full metal body construction, and it just feels and oozes quality. Once you have it in your hand, you'll know what I'm talking about. The quality you get from this kit lens is comparable with Canon L series lenses, and in some instances even surpasses the quality of Canon lenses. So we don't need these anymore. Don't worry, that was just a mug, it wasn't a real lens. The 18 to 55 millimeter focal length, which is a 28 to 88 millimeter full frame equivalent, means that you have everything in your arsenal, from those wide scenes to portrait to that mid zoom level. What this means for new users is that you can buy one lens that does it all, and you can keep that lens and know that you're getting quality that will last you for years to come. Oh God, I got the corona. The lens is also stabilized, which is massive. You have everything at your arsenal to create any project with this one lens. Make sure if you buy the Fujifilm, you get this kit lens. All right guys, that's the end of the video. I hope you have learned something new and I've entertained you in some way. If you liked that video and you're new here, hit that like button and subscribe so you can keep up to date with all my future videos. This is a new venture for me. I've been behind the camera for many, many years, and to be in front of the camera is quite daunting, so I really do appreciate all your support, and thanks again for watching. See you next time, guys.